Welcome to Rhody Round the World, where we explore stories, insights, and experiences that are making waves around the world and shaping the University of Rhode Island's global community. My name is Carolyn Ballerman, and I work for the Office of Global Initiatives here at URI.
Thanks, Carolyn. And my name is Keegan Scott. I'm the Director of Fellowships. Now more than ever, the world is increasingly interconnected, making it simple and easy to communicate and connect with people across the globe. With this, it is increasingly important for job candidates to have intercultural competency to work for diverse and global companies.
Study abroad experiences provide students with professional and personal development to stand out as candidates in the global job market, as international experiences broaden their personal and professional skills. Career-oriented study abroad programs prepare students to work and thrive in these global environments.
So, as many of us know, URI offers study abroad programs that are immersive and career-focused, which will help prepare students to work and thrive in global environments. So, Carolyn, I have a question for you. Since you, of course, work in the Global Initiatives Office and you know all things global initiatives, so tell me, if you could do a URI study away program, which one would you do?
That's a great question, Keegan.
I would choose one of our Rhody Abroad programs or any of our other programs that offer an immersive professional development experience.
Yes. More professional development, doing it abroad. What could go wrong, right? So that's a great segue, Carolyn, because today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Jack Cox, a recent URI graduate who truly embodies what it means to stand out with study abroad. He spent a transformative semester in London that helped shape not only his college experience, but also his future path. This fall, he's heading back to the UK to pursue a master's in human rights and politics at the London School of Economics and Political Science. We got a chance to talk about how study abroad helped him grow personally and professionally, and how it set the stage for what's next.
During your time abroad, were there any particular academic or cultural experiences that left a lasting impression or influenced you in your future goals?
Yeah, so academic-wise, I took a lot of classes on the European Union, European politics, like British communications. So I learned a lot about the BBC and how that works and how that kind of spills into the rest of British society, as well as, the EU. Obviously, Britain left the EU not too long ago, and they're still seeing the ramifications of that. And it was a very interesting time for me studying abroad there because it was post-Brexit, post-Queen Elizabeth. It was almost like a new era for the country. So that was very interesting. I studied political science and international relations in my undergrad, but I didn't really quite get the ramifications and how much that actually means to people. But yeah, and then another thing that was cool was I had a one-on-one class. So it was one professor and I was a one student. It was a great class. That was the European Union class I took, but that made me have to focus a lot. It made me have to get on top of my work, really focus and lock in for lectures. And my professor was great and he was very knowledgeable. So I learned a lot, especially from being the one-on-one student.
Thank you for sharing. I just want to ask, did you succeed in that one-on-one class?
I did. Yes, I got an A in that class, thankfully.
Great. Just want to confirm.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really cool. And I'm glad you shared. In what ways did studying abroad challenge you to grow, whether in leadership, communication, or how you navigate unfamiliar situations?
That's a great question. I think just living in a whole other country, a whole other environment was a bit of a shell shock for me. I grew up right outside Providence, so I kind of had access to a medium-sized city and then, going to school in like a beach area like South County. But being in this big metropolis like London, it was a lot to get used to. You're never alone. And, one thing that I kind of struggled with was even like sleeping in central London. I mean, I lived underneath a train station. There was always cars. There was always people talking. So that was definitely a lot to get used to. And I mean, just like that level of independence was not so much challenging for me because I like to think I'm a pretty independent person, but it really did kind of bring my, what I thought of myself and how I thought I functioned as a person to a whole nother level, whether it be cooking these new meals, but like going to these new stores I've never heard of to try and find X, Y, and Z, or even traveling to other countries I've never been to before. Like I've never been to continental Europe before.
Can you actually tell us more about those relationships you built abroad, and how did those connections impact you both professionally and personally?
I've met some of like my best friends I'll ever make in my life in those brief like 3 months. And like, people I've never met before. I was the only New Englander in my program actually. So, if London hadn't brought us together, there's a good chance I would have never met these people like ever. I'm incredibly thankful that, I was able to build these relationships, make some of my best friends I'll ever make. And
We also got the chance to connect with Willie and Jero, whose study abroad experience sparked something bigger than just travel. It led to a powerful message about connection, culture, and compassion. Studying abroad helped shape his worldview and both a healthcare professional and a storyteller, and his experiences continue to inform his path forward. He's a PharmD major here at URI and spent a month in Costa Rica, where the impact of immersing himself in a new environment stayed with him far beyond that classroom. The transformative experience inspired him to deliver a TEDx talk titled What Costa Rican Hanging Bridges Teach Us About Innovation, where he drew a powerful connection between the Rainforest Bridge in Costa Rica and the essence of innovation, sharing stories from his time abroad and his work in life sciences to show how small steps can drive meaningful change.
Well, Willie, we're very excited to have you on here today. As someone who just loves a good bridge, I'm excited for today's episode. So I'll start us off here. What initially led to your interest in traveling to Costa Rica?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, honestly, I really wanted to really gain exposure and understand another country's health system. And so I really thought it'd be a great opportunity at that time. So that was my P1 year to pursue a study abroad. And so I was looking at all the different opportunities, and there was an opportunity to have a global health study abroad trip in Costa Rica. I also had never been in Latin America. I had traveled abroad before. I'd traveled abroad twice to Kenya, where my family's from. But having the chance to visit Latin America, I thought would be a really cool experience. And so I had also done a little bit of research on the side, and I had discovered that Costa Rica was known for its environmental leadership and public health outcomes, and how that essentially translated into the everyday life of civilians. So I thought it'd be really interesting to explore that intersection of healthcare, environmentalism, public health. And so really entered into this entire program with a lot of curiosity to have a new personal experience, have a new learning experience, and get out of my comfort zone and really immerse myself in a new culture. So that's what really drew me to Costa Rica.
Awesome. So in your talk, you mentioned that Costa Rica's healthcare transformation. Did experiencing that system firsthand teach you something that a classroom couldn't?
First of all, I have to say, we do learn so much, in the classroom, in the College of Pharmacy. They really do a really great job of exposing us to all the different facets of healthcare from a science perspective, patient care perspective, law and policy perspective. But of course, naturally, there's just certain things that, you won't get exposure to, as you mentioned. And in Costa Rica's healthcare system, in person really brought a level of nuance and humanity. For example, was able to visit, a local clinic and see how a small team can provide care to thousands of patients, or even being able to physically watch long lines form in front of pharmacies or public health hospitals. And so that really underscored both, the strengths of health systems and the real logistical challenges that can exist. And so really being able to meet these providers, healthcare professionals, patients one-on-one, and witness the cultural commitment, especially to prevention and community, it really made everything super alive and tangible. And so it really did teach me, being in that experience, that health systems aren't just numbers and policies and laws and statistics, but they're deeply human. They're shaped by values, by fears, and the resilience of everyday people.
No, I love that. I love this idea that, of course, it's like, yes, this, what you said is so true, right? It's human, right? All of these interactions, the things you do, right? For your work and so on. It's, there's people behind that, and I love that. And actually, that dovetails nicely with our next question because, it's very unique that you had this experience, right? Both a cultural and a professional experience, and so within that, again, how is navigating that sort of environment where you're having that cultural and professional experience at the same time? How has that helped you grow as a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I would say um, having that experience, especially within that short time frame of just a winter J term, really taught me about the importance of adapting quickly, being immersed in a Spanish speaking country. I mean, I'd taken Spanish in high school, but really only for 3 years. And so now, senior year of high school and all the way, into college, like had really like practiced that specific piece of language, but being able to be there and listen, on the tour guides that were there, the different people that worked at the hospitals and different healthcare centers really allowed me to understand their problems from a new perspective. And so when also, kind of going back to the idea of Spanish, when being able to practice Spanish a little bit more, as well as learning through observation or navigating different cultural norms around health and wellness, it really did teach me that aspect of being flexible, open-minded, and of course, empathy. That's huge when you get to have that cross-cultural experience. And so these are definitely leadership qualities that I carry with me every day. So I've had the opportunity to, lead a team an industry pharmacist organization on campus and off campus. I'm also a leader for a biotech nonprofit, and so being able to be adaptable and understand people with diverse backgrounds and perspectives is always something that I have to really tap into and tailor. And so that trip really did reinforce that. Then ultimately, like community. So learning how to build relationships and problem solve collaboratively. You hear that a lot. Learning how to problem solve and knowing how to do that in a team context, but being able to be there and witness how other people do that was super informative.
So it seems like relationship building is a big part of being in the pharmaceutical field and growing within your field. So was there anybody that you met on your trip, or that was with you on your trip that you built a connection with that had a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to one person. I didn't necessarily directly work with them per se, but was able to engage with her as well as with other students in the trip. And it was a woman, her name was Hazel. And so she welcomed us into her home for a traditional meal. And that experience really stuck out to me the most. Maybe at first glance on paper, it wasn't like some, you know, huge, extravagant, life-changing experience that conventionally you would think. But honestly, it was just like a very normal, but still like profound opportunity to hear stories and speak with all the locals that were there over food. And it really gave me insights on hospitality, the power of making people feel seen and valued regardless of background or cultural differences. And her kindness and openness of kind of opening up her home to all of these study abroad students really, I think, left a lasting mark with regards to how to really tap into that quieter form of leadership, because leadership doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to be the person from the mountaintop that is really just trying to make your presence known. I mean, honestly, just those scenarios of just, being of service and really pursuing genuine connection with others, that's what can really influence other people. And so that's really a new aspect that I was able to learn from her. Is definitely something that I consider even today.
I love that, Willie. I guess some would say that a lot of bridges were being built, including cultural ones. So, we love to see that. And so speaking, in your TED Talk, you were talking about innovation, right? And I wanted to go into this a little bit. how did your experiences in Costa Rica reshape your ideas of where and how innovation really happens?
Yeah, it's another great question. So I think probably to backtrack a little bit, it'd be great to explore like what the definition of innovation is. And there's a lot of different definitions for that term. And that's something that I tried to break down in my TEDx. The quote that I brought up specifically was from someone, her name was Katie Pearson. I'm from MIT. And she shared how innovation is a process that marries a problem with a solution to create impact. I mean, actually, here in my internship, I've also been learning a new definition of innovation, which is doing an old job in a new way that creates value. And I feel like that particular definition does really help me like rethink the role of innovation and why it's so important. If we want to like think about it from the context of Costa Rica, it really showed me like, for example, with the primary health clinics that exist there, it really showed me how, even in the context of, limited access that can occur, that by not necessarily creating, a completely brand new health system, but just reimagining how, existing infrastructure can be delivered can be a great way to apply, innovation. And so in the context of Costa Rica, again, by establishing these really tailored health centers within communities, it really provided an opportunity to do a community focused way of increasing access to essential health services and reduce inequities and inequalities. And that value is created in order to form healthier populations as well as a more efficient use of resources. And so I say all that to say, by just thinking about, all the different experiences and resources and skills that we have at our disposal, if we can just use that to creatively reimagine what already exists, instead of simply just designing something completely brand new, that in and of itself can be incredibly meaningful. So that's kind of a perspective that really was valuable for me.
Can you say that one more time, Willie? If I understand, you said doing old jobs in new ways that creates innovation. Is that correct?
So doing an old job in a new way that creates value.
That creates value.
Exactly.
That's what it is. All right. I love that. I'll file that away.
Yeah.
Based on what you shared, I mean, it seems, connect those dots for us a little bit of like Costa Rica to now, right? It's like, what did that look like for you, right? It's not every day that someone just, has a company in that kind of capacity, right? So what was that journey like after, you came back from Costa Rica till now?
Yeah. So after coming back from Costa Rica, I mean, I had a lot to think about, a lot with regards to, now I've had this experience. I've witnessed how the health system works within Costa Rica. And then, also with my own professional interests, like I've really been interested in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology sectors just because I've really been trying to think about, where can I be in healthcare that allows me to drive access, health equity, and innovation in a macroscopic way. And, in high school, I helped to launch a nonprofit pharmacy, and that was really great to kind of connect with patients on a one-to-one level, especially to those that could not afford some essential medications, and being able to be in the front line and be a part of this movement that was all about providing low-cost drugs was really great. But one question that I had at that moment was, okay, this is great for this particular population within Houston, Texas. But if we want to expand this across regions, if we want to drive, health access and health equity, across, states or even globally, like where can that happen? And so, kind of going into Costa Rica again, like that really gave me that perspective of what health access looks like there. And so now where I'm at now, interning at a pharmaceutical company, that common thread of health equity has still always been, a big thing of mine. So like really trying to understand, okay, from the, perspectives and concepts of innovation, of, doing, old jobs a new way, thinking about, from a, pharmaceutical perspective, there's all these different, science and modalities that we're trying to, look into to drive new drugs, from a perspective of even now, being a student, here at URI, I've been a part of student organizations, trying to learn how to be a leader and empower others, like taking all of that, how can all of this inform how to drive change in healthcare? So now where I'm at is really wanting to leverage, all the experiences that I have from having that global health study abroad in Costa Rica, having an internship like I have now, as well as being a pharmacy student, to have just a multifaceted clinical, scientific, business, technological perspective to all serve as tools to ultimately help people. And I think especially now, as healthcare continues to evolve, as technology continues to evolve, it's really important that we have that multifaceted skill set and experience across different arenas. Like I've been able to really learn about, emerging technology and trends. And in previous experiences, I've been able to really strengthen my data fluency in certain areas. And so being able to have like a data mind and a clinical mind and also like a business mind really is now helping me to hopefully become that well-rounded person to ultimately help drive health equity in the future. So how exactly that will look like 15, 20, 30 years from now, definitely looking forward to explore. And, I'm just like any other student. I mean, there's still learning and trying to see what's out there, but I definitely do see a lot of promise, at least in my perspective, in pharmaceuticals and biotech to be at the face of driving equity and access in a really, really profound way.
When students study abroad, they learn intercultural skills that help them interact, relate to, and understand people of different cultures. During study abroad programs, students gain skills in crisis management, communication, overcoming language barriers, strategic thinking, problem solving, global fluency, flexibility, teamwork, organization, and much more. I look forward to seeing some more Rhodys studying abroad.
I can't wait. From Kingston to the world, thanks for listening.